Hello everyone, I'm Clinton Rioli. I'm a Tiwi man and a Tiwi land ranger. Today Georgie and I will be sharing with you some of the work Tiwi Rangers and Charles Darwin Uni have been doing together to better understand the health of our native mammal populations and how we might be able to better manage country and feral cats. Tiwi Islands is where I live. They're about 50 miles north of Darwin in the NT. Melville and Bathurst are the two main Tiwi Islands and are Australia's second and fifth largest islands. We have our own land council and a team of land and sea rangers. Us rangers care for 800,000 hectares of land and over 800 kilometres of coastline. Currently, we do not have an Indigenous protected area, but this will change hopefully this year in 2023 when our IPA is going to be dedicated. The Tiwis have the highest annual rainfall in the Northern Territory, between 1,400 and 2,000 mils, but there is a big difference in the amount of rainfall across the islands. We get most of our rain, Puckdringa, in the wet season. Jumatakari from a big monsoon storm cloud called Hector. Our islands are mostly savanna, woodland and forest with very tall eucalyptus compared to the mainland. We also have a lot of monsoon rainforests. We don't have any rocky escarpment country, so we unfortunately don't have any rock adapted animals like the quolls or the rock wallabies. Because we get so much rain, we can also have a lot of fire on our islands. You'll see on the map there, some parts of the Tiwis can burn every year, and it's mainly around places people go hunting on Melville. So too many large, hot, late, dry season fires is bad for our country. So to try and stop this kind of fire, the rangers do a lot of early dry season burning. So as you can see on the map there, the purple area where there's a lot of fires happen, that's around our main hunting area. We do the buffalo and magpie geese and all that sort of stuff. The Tiwis are a biodiversity haven in Northern Australia. We have a high diversity of plant and animal species, including many not recorded anywhere else. Many of these species are important to our culture and for bush tucker. We're also one of the few remaining toad-free islands in the Northern Territory. Of our 36 mammal species, many are listed as threatened in Australia as they have either disappeared or declined a lot on the mainland. The Tiwis now have some of the highest remaining densities of the northern phascogale, the black-footed tree rat, which is the yindamunga, and the woonunga, which is the northern brush-tailed possum. I'll now hand you over to Georgie, who'll talk about the threats facing native animals and what we have learnt about cats as well. Thanks, Georgie.
Nice work, Clinton. Bit of a giant, so I'll just move that up. So as Clinton was saying, the Tiwis remains an important refuge for native mammals, as there's been no local extinctions recorded here. Up until recently, the Tiwis was also thought to have been spared the declines in abundance of native mammals, but this is no longer the case on Melville Island. And we know this because in 2015, 2020 and 2021, the Tiwi Rangers and Charles Darwin Uni undertook a health check of mammal populations across both islands. We resampled sites that were first surveyed 20 years ago by the Northern Territory Government, and this allowed us to compare our capture rates to these baseline historical capture rates. This work actually showed that there was a 62% reduction in total trap success between 2000 and 2015 on Melville Island, and alarming rates of trap success decline were reported for the yindamunga, black-footed tree rat, rabbit rat, and bandicoots. So this pattern of decline in trap success is similar to what was reported in Kakadu during the mammal crash over 20 years ago. When we looked across from Melville to Bathurst Island, there appeared to be no change in trap success or the number of species trapped at a site between 2000 and 2020. So this indicates that mammal populations on Bathurst are relatively healthy and stable, which is actually a rare finding in our northern savannas now. Whilst the results of these surveys are concerning, particularly for on Melville Island, they have been very important in confirming the key differences in the threats between the islands. And I say this because Bathurst and Melville Island, they differ drastically in their densities of large feral herbivores and feral cats. So Melville has abundant feral cats and large herbivores, so only buffalo and horse, and mammals are declining. Yet Bathurst has no large herbivores, it has abundant pigs, it has very low feral cat activity, and mammals are stable. In Northern Australia, a conceptual model has emerged which suggests that predation by feral cats is the biggest driver of mammal decline, but that this can be amplified in landscapes with high severity disturbance regimes. So primarily there's frequent high severity fires in combination with heavy grazing by large feral herbivores. So understanding how these disturbances interact to potentially enable or mediate feral cats on the Tiwis is actually very important to inform future management here for the ranges. And that's because managing fire and feral herbivores is actually far more feasible than directly controlling feral cats in these high rainfall savannas. And as Clinton said earlier, the Tiwi Rangers already put in a huge effort every year to manage their fire, which is awesome. I missed my little icons. You get the picture though. So to try and quantify the differing cat densities between the two islands, rangers and researchers carried out targeted camera trapping grids to estimate cat density under differing fire histories and differing densities of buffalo and horse. And in addition to the 4 cat density grids, widespread camera trapping surveys were undertaken across both islands as part of general fauna monitoring across 3 years. And this work confirmed that yes, cat densities were higher on Melville, with an average of 0.15 cats per square kilometre, which is similar to densities reported from mainland areas in the top end. No cats were detected on the Bathurst Island density grids, and only 1 cat detection in 29,000 camera trap nights has been recorded on Bathurst so far. So we think there's quite low densities on Bathurst of feral cats. So when we looked at the patterns of the cat detection across the Tiwis, there was a clear association with disturbance. There was higher cat activity in areas with more large feral herbivores and with a history of frequent severe fires. So there's likely many mechanisms driving this relationship, and some of these have been looked at elsewhere in Northern Australia. And these studies looked at the tendency of cats to use hot fire scars and how they can be more effective hunters in open habitat. However, this correlation between herbivores and feral cats that we were seeing on the Tiwis was interesting to us, and we thought it important to kind of investigate further by thinking about what other potential mechanisms might be going on here. So we know that heavy grazing by herbivores causes simplification of habitat and that they degrade wetlands and waterways. But what other advantages to cats could the presence of herbivores be facilitating? And we kind of started thinking about this effect in the landscape that herbivores have a lot across the tropical savannas. And it's the high density of game trails that buffalo and horse create across these vast areas, and they also often penetrate dense areas of vegetation. That aerial photo was taken on Melville Island, just for reference. So it's well established that mammalian predators in Australia and elsewhere make use of natural features, such as dry creek beds and fire scars, and man-made features like roads. However, few studies have really investigated the use of game trails by feral cats, so we were kind of keen to pursue that. I'm sure there's many people in this room who naturally target game trails for feral cat control and monitoring, as it makes sense cats would use these features if available. But we still wanted to collect some data on game trail use by cats on the Tiwis to really figure out if they were preferencing them. So to determine if cats were preferentially using the game trails, we designed a targeted study in an area with lots of buffalo, lots of horse on Melville. So during the end of the wet season, when there was no fire scars in the landscape, we deployed 104 camera traps at 52 paired sites, with one facing across a game trail and one 60 metres nearby in undisturbed vegetation. And we made sure we picked up all the cameras before there was fire in the landscape. And the results from this work were really clear. They showed that there was a stark difference in cat detection rates on cameras placed on game trails versus the off-game trail cameras. And this suggests that feral cats are actively using game trails and may help explain why feral cats are relatively abundant on Melville. But as with anything, this work has led to a lot more questions. We do not fully understand why cats are preferentially using game trails, nor what the net benefit may be to their predation impacts in a landscape with and without game trails. But we do know that there's big differences in the feral cat abundances between the two islands, despite a similar history and introduction of cats. Just lost my spot. We think that the key differences between these two islands is the level of disturbance, particularly from feral herbivores, and that the presence of high densities of buff and horse, in combination with fire, has really allowed cats to take a foothold on Melville Island. So going forward, we think to maintain the low densities of cats on Bathurst, it must be kept free of buffalo and horse. The current good fire management must be continued by TOs and rangers. And community cat ownership and desexing should probably really be the focus of any future funding. On Melville, however, the preferential use of game trails could be harnessed to more effectively monitor cat populations and the impacts of any future control work. It's been difficult to date for us to really detect cats in high enough levels, so this could be a useful camera placement method. Game trails could be used as features to put felixes on to possibly increase their effectiveness on these huge islands. And we also think that if cat control is to be undertaken on Melville, it cannot be undertaken in isolation of managing fires and herbivores, because these two disturbances would likely facilitate the reinvasion by feral cats. So yeah, overall the work we've undertaken is a collaboration, and we've learnt a huge amount. And Clinton and I can't wait to learn more at this symposium, so please do come and talk to us. And yeah, thanks for listening.